The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.
Welcome to the David Pakman Show. I think by this point, most of our audience has heard President Barack Obama has won re-election. He won it handily. He won it by the exact margin that one of the three of us predicted yesterday. Which one? We'll talk about that in a little bit. Coming up, Lewis. Stay tuned. You're staying. You're going to be here, obviously. Yeah.
For the whole hour.
So let's start with the very beginning here, ladies and gentlemen. We have overall results here that tell us, number one, President Obama won. Number two, the actual pollsters who were doing legitimate polling were basically right. And those right-wing pollsters who insisted that Pennsylvania and Michigan and Wisconsin and all of these blue states were going to be in play for Mitt Romney were incredibly wrong. What does this tell us about the polling? This has to suggest that next election, hopefully, people will remember. You just can't trust some pollsters. They just aren't right. And you got to stop paying attention to them.
They're going to be there anyway. And because they're so closely associated with certain media outlets that will presumably still be in place or around the next election, it will be unavoidable.
I'm glad Mitt Romney is done and we don't have to deal with the threat of such a vastly incompetent man as the President of the United States. It turns out when you have an illegitimate candidate, the electorate apparently does have a way of shutting that whole thing down.
Thankfully.
Bottom line, Mitt Romney was a losing proposition for Republicans. He was a losing proposition for the country. And unless you believed the nutty pollsters, he never really had a chance, although you certainly don't know that when you're getting all sorts of misinformation from the right, do you?
Not at all. No.
We finally found a house that was too expensive, even for Mitt Romney to buy his way into.
Very funny. Very clever.
I mean, it's better for Romney, honestly. The White House doesn't even have a car elevator, as far as I know.
You could have one installed.
Yeah. My favorite clip, and this, we could do an hour on all of the outrageous, smug, right-wing predictions for this race, but the only one I want to call your attention to is a recent one, which I found particularly off-putting, which was Dick Morris saying, it's just going to be a sweep, it's going to be incredible what Mitt Romney does, he's just going to dominate 300, 350, 300, I don't even know how many electoral votes he's going to get. Here is that clip of Dick Morris making that claim, and this is on the Bill O'Reilly Show. And I don't know why Dick Morris is particularly distasteful to me, Lewis, but he is. Something about him is particularly distasteful. Let's get a look at some of that video that he had.
Now from Detroit. So you, I'm sure, repudiate the New York Times poll.
Right.
Yeah, and let me go through the numbers because it's important for people to get it.
Yeah, it's important for people to get why I'm going to make up something completely false and be proven to be completely wrong on Election Day. Prove it to us, Dick, here. Let's take a look.
Florida, the Times says Obama's going to win by 1, but their sample has 7 points more Democrats than Republicans.
Turns out that's not the case. It turns out that Barack Obama is apparently going to win Florida. We're still waiting for the final results. Continue, Dick. Please inspire us with your incredible analysis of why the right-wing media really knows what the election results will be.
Pollster John McLaughlin and I went through the actual results of the last 4 elections, and on average, the Republicans had 1% more than the Democrats.
Yeah.
So that poll is off by a factor of 8. So instead of Obama winning by...
Like, listen to what he's saying. The poll's off by a factor of 8. It's multiple standard deviations off from the reality. Turns out the poll was about right.
And Dick Morris was dead wrong.
Yeah, Natan.
Let me just say something about that. The reason why the poll was right is because they just ask people, what party do you self-identify as? And that's something that's fluid. It changes over time. So in any one snapshot, when people say, if 38% of the people who answered the survey said that they're Democrats, that doesn't mean that they're over or understating how many Democrats are going to show, but just means that the people that are going to vote self-identify that way.
Absolutely. Let's continue.
Romney would win Florida by 7. In Ohio, Obama's shown as winning by 5 in the Times poll, but they had 8 points more Democrats than Republicans, and historically there were only 2 points more Ds than ours.
Right.
So that's 6 points off. So instead of Romney losing by 5, he wins Ohio by 1.
Yep, that's going to happen.
And in Virginia, they have Obama winning by 2. but they have 8 points more Democrats than Republicans, and historically, there's 1 point more Republican than Democrat. That's off by a factor of 9. Romney wins Virginia by 7.
And that's pretty much what Rove did on his
this is the Bill O'Reilly program, and somehow this guy's allowed to come on here and say Romney's going to win Florida by 7 and Virginia by how much? By 8 or by 9? I mean, it's just nonsense. It's nonsense, and everybody knew it, but they're talking about it like this is reasonable.
And does Bill O'Reilly have any sort of follow-up?
Let's listen.
Here's my question. Can a pollster assume that all Democrats and all Republicans are going to vote for whoever is running in their party? Can you assume that with any certainty?
Yes, you can. You get about 90% voting for their party, so you can. It's the independents who split. What the New York Times is doing is they're taking a poll that probably is initially accurate. I'll bet that all 3 of those polls show Romney ahead. All
right, I'm sick of this. This is just nonsense. He went on to say that Romney was going to have 300 or something electoral votes. It didn't happen, and that's the case. Not everybody was this ridiculous, though, at least not after the fact. Here is Newt Gingrich this morning on CBS saying, we got it wrong. And he includes Dick Morris. He says, Dick Morris got it wrong, I got it wrong, we got it wrong.
Well, I'm going to say bluntly, we were wrong. I think Karl Rove, Michael Barone, Dick Morris, a whole group of us, frankly, misunderstood what was happening in the country.
Yeah, you misunderstood what was happening in the country in the sense that the average of all polls predicted this race exactly, and you just chose not to believe that, right? I mean, what do you mean they didn't understand what was happening in this country?
Is it choosing not to believe it, or is it just trying to use different data that might not be accurate?
Data that doesn't exist except in their mind.
Do we think that they were making this up? Do we think that they just didn't want to believe it, so they looked for anything to give them an excuse to say that Romney might win?
I don't know.
You know what's interesting about this whole thing? This is really just part of the Republican rejection of facts. You can imagine if Romney had won, if Republican presidents would win in the next 12 to 16 years.
Yeah.
In 30 years, you have Newt Gingrich at 140 saying, we just got this all wrong with global warming. We were just totally wrong on what was going on in the country.
We just didn't know.
Saying that knee deep in water.
Let's go to some of the calls of the election. Here is Wolf Blitzer on CNN making that call, a call that was really, I think, fake drama in the sense that we could tell about 90 minutes before this call exactly what direction things were going in. However, CNN and many networks choosing understandably to make it dramatic, and here it was from Wolf Blitzer on CNN.
Another 4 years because we project he will carry the state of Ohio. By carrying Ohio, he wins re-election. The President of the United States defeats Mitt Romney in this at this time right now. We have made this projection, so the President wins this battle for the White House. They're excited.
All right, so there it was, and then, of course, we have to see what happened on Fox News, right? My thought yesterday was if President Obama is reelected, I'm going to be watching Fox. I mean, we should almost cancel the show and just run Fox News. That'll be the show today, just seeing what Fox News is doing. Let's just take a little bit. Here is the announcement from Fox News about the big win for President Obama, the big loss for Fox News and a lot of their cronies and funders and right-wing rich guys, so on and so forth. Let's take a look.
Hard-fought battle for the state of Ohio. And now, as we've told you, Fox News has projected that Barack Obama has won it, and Fox News is projecting that Barack Obama has been reelected as President of the United States. That Mitt Romney's path to the presidency has now been foreclosed with the loss of Ohio.
Because now we can project that Barack Obama will win Iowa and Oregon. The state of Iowa will go to President Obama.
Yes, it will, and a number of other states as well. So there it is from Fox News. We'll get into all the Fox News equivocation lately. Let's quickly look at the presidential results. We've got about a roughly a 2.5. It's going to take a little while to come out. About a 2.5 million vote popular advantage for President Obama. On the electoral votes, Natan, I would ask you to put up my map as well as the official results map. But it turns out that they are one and the same, because my prediction, assuming that Florida holds for the Obama lead, was exactly right, state by state, Lewis. Thank you for your congratulations. I do appreciate it. And, honestly,
we're all so happy for you.
There were really only four. This isn't real. We had three likely scenarios on this show. It just so happened that I picked the one that ended up happening. But there were really only a handful of realistic scenarios. Now, if you believe the Republican polls, or just the Republicans about polls that don't even exist, there were a number of additional scenarios. But really looking at at median and mean poll data, there were only a handful of possible scenarios involving Florida, Ohio, and Virginia, North Carolina maybe, Colorado, New Hampshire maybe. It just so happened that my prediction held and that it was 100% accurate, Lewis.
Congratulations, David.
Thank you. But I don't really think it's that big of an accomplishment. I mean, right, Natan, we were really all just picking from the likely scenarios.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, Real Clear Politics had an average of the polls in each state, and they, on the day of the election, the last predictions from the last polls showed the exact result that you got. So, fortunately, we can say that math won.
Math won. You know what?
Facts and evidence wins.
Going back to Bill Clinton's DNC speech, it turns out it is about the arithmetic and just simple numbers and addition. There it is. We're still waiting for the numbers in Florida. We have 100% counted, and President Obama is ahead. I guess we're just waiting for something to make it official, but it does appear that this is a resounding victory for President Obama, at least in the context of how American elections work. Still only a couple of points, percentage points in the popular vote separating these individuals. Now, Fox News had a disagreement with Karl Rove. As soon as they called Ohio, Karl Rove on that network, who was sitting on the panel, said, "I don't agree with the call you guys are making." It was fascinating television, ladies and gentlemen. It was fascinating to see the right-wingers just completely lose their minds. They start arguing with each other. Karl Rove arguing with Fox News. I love it. Let's look at the video.
Real doubts about the call that's been made by us and I guess other networks about Ohio. They do not believe that Ohio is in the Obama camp. I just got an email from a top Romney person. I said, do you agree with our call? He said, not really. You went through this in 2000. You almost went through it in 2004. Do you believe that Ohio has been settled?
No, I don't.
So you're not saying that Obama isn't going to win,
No,
but you're just saying he hasn't won it yet.
I think this is premature. We got a quarter of the vote.
I understand what Carl's saying, but if you look at some of these counties that are still left out there, there are votes, a lot of votes left for Obama.
I don't know what the outcome is going to be, but we got to be careful about calling things when we have like 991 votes separating the two candidates and a quarter of the vote yet to count.
Now, I have to admit, when the vote at one point after Ohio had been called for President Obama and therefore the election had been called for President Obama, the Ohio vote count switched to having Mitt Romney ahead slightly. I admit, I got a little nervous at that point. Then I saw that it was abundantly clear that President Obama was not even going to need Ohio. And then I went to bed. So that was a little bit of a concern. But very funny, guys, to see this debate between Fox News' decision desk and Karl Rove. I love it.
Yes, doesn't happen very often, does it?
No, it certainly doesn't.
Let me just say one more thing on that. It was interesting because Karl Rove was trying to debate Michael Barone later on that night about this previous incident that happened earlier. And it was just very clear that Michael Barone was just telling him the facts. He's like, look, if you look at the counties, this is clear. It's a well-thought-out projection. And Karl Rove was still saying that it was premature, even though the election was over.
Yeah, the election was over, and Karl Rove was still trying to basically bring it back. Eventually, we got a concession speech from Mitt Romney. I believe it was just before 1 a.m. Eastern time. It was a very short concession speech. Let's go to a little bit of that, Lewis, please. Why don't we?
It's done for our campaign. And for our country. Besides my wife, Ann, Paul is the best choice I've ever made.
Now that's scary. In his entire life, the second best choice Romney ever made was picking Paul Ryan to be his running mate. I'm glad he's not going to be making any more choices for this country, because if that's at the top of his list, we would have been in trouble, guys.
Very, very serious.
Serious, absolutely serious trouble. Then let's go skip ahead. There's a couple things I want to hit on here from this speech. Let's go to the next point from the Mitt Romney concession speech. Here we go.
Risk partisan bickering and political posturing. Our leaders have to reach across the aisle to do the people's work. And we citizens also have to rise to the occasion. We look to our teachers and professors. We count on you not just to teach, but to inspire our children with a passion for learning and discovery.
Kind of funny that I found it a little funny that he put in the teachers thing, especially when in one of the debates he started an answer with, "I love teachers and all, but," which is not really a great way to start. It's weird. In such a short speech, it's interesting. When you only have 5 minutes, each thing you choose to include, it's almost more significant, right? Because you have more limited time to do it in.
Right, right. Yeah, we know what the Ryan budget would have done to education.
Absolutely. Oh, well, that's the other thing, that it just flatly goes against everything that they were proposing. And then last part from this is the moment where Mitt Romney says that he will be praying for Obama. It really did not feel friendly. I thought that the entire speech was pretty passive-aggressive, but this particular moment took the cake for me.
I so wish that I had been able to fulfill your hopes to lead the country in a different direction, but the nation chose another leader, and so Ann and I join with you to earnestly pray for him and for this great nation. Thank you. And
because Obama needs your prayer, because he's so misguided. That Mitt Romney's prayer. Listen, Mitt Romney did a lot already to help Obama, because the Mormon Church did posthumously baptize. It was President Obama's grandmother, I believe, right? Which was it, Natan?
I can't remember, but whatever it was highly immoral.
Yeah, that we know for sure. So we know the morality of Mitt Romney's prayer is going to be a really helpful thing for the president.
Well, I'd rather Mitt Romney preach praying for the president than shooting him.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Let's go to a little bit of President Obama's victory speech, which ran about 23 minutes. It happened very, very late, I think close to 2 a.m. Eastern time it ended. Here it is.
To fix that.
You know what? They actually wanted that part. I wanted that. Let me back it up a little bit, because he actually specifically says the voting lines have to be fixed.
You voted for the very first time, or waited in line for a very long time. By the way, we have to fix that. Whether you pounded the pavement or picked up the phone. Whether you held an Obama sign or a Romney sign, you made your voice heard, and you made a difference. I just spoke with Governor Romney, and I congratulated him and Paul Ryan on a hard-fought campaign.
Of course, filled with lies and distortions and personal attacks on the president.
It was hard fought, though.
It was certainly hard fought, absolutely. Yeah. So President Obama had a good speech. He referenced gay marriage and marriage equality. He referenced education. I mean, Natan, it was a wide-ranging speech, really hitting on a lot of progressive points.
Yeah, I thought it was a great speech. He didn't have the baggage that he had when he gave the acceptance speech in 2008 in terms of the economy being in the tank. So overall, he was more relaxed. He knows he's not running for re-election ever again. So I think that he's going to have a good 4 years ahead of him.
Let's touch on the right-wing equivocation that took place. Let's put up the first, and if we can do these full screen, Natan, that would be great if we're prepared for that. The first Drudge Report headline, I started taking screenshots of Drudge Report as soon as the election was no longer in play. There it was. Instead of saying, President Obama has won, simply keeping up this splash that shows that Mitt Romney at that time was ahead in the popular vote, choosing to keep that up for a long time. Let's go to Drudge Report 2 now, Natan. The divided states of America. This is the idea now from the right. Well, listen, Obama won, but it was such a small margin that we're really divided, right? Because we weren't divided when George W. Bush lost the popular vote and assumed the presidency, right?
Right.
And then Fox News running a headline, Obama won, but not with a mandate. And then Fox News running, Romney classy, Obama negative. And then here's a quote from Glenn Beck that I like on President Obama's victory. Glenn Beck, quote, "If Americans are so dead on the inside that they can no longer tell the difference between good and evil, we have to be destroyed, because we will be remarkable evil upon this planet." The dramatics, Lewis, with Glenn Beck are running high.
More despicable nonsense from Glenn Beck, who is one of the most evil people I can think of, to be perfectly honest.
Because of the election win, we are doing our biggest membership special ever, Lewis. We are doing a David Pakman Show hoodie sweatshirt plus a 1-year membership for 40% off. DavidPakman.com/2012wins/2012wins. 48-hour special. We want you aboard. DavidPakman.com/2012wins. We'll take a break. We'll talk about the House. We'll talk about the Senate. Much more. Stay tuned.
The David Pakman Show at DavidPakman.com. Welcome back to the David Pakman Show.
Welcome back to the show. It's great to have everybody who's with us on the YouTube live stream, including everybody from the We Survive Bush, You Will Survive Obama Facebook page, as well as the I Love It When I Wake Up in the Morning and Barack Obama is President Facebook page. That Facebook page will be able to continue for an additional 4 years, Lewis. Incredible stuff.
Good stuff.
Please become a David Pakman Show member. I want to say hi to a very special new member today, made possible in part by liberalbias.com. You know, Lewis, I was thinking, people always talk about liberal arts colleges, but there's no conservative arts colleges. That seems really biased to me.
That's really slanted.
Yeah.
I don't like that.
You can find out more about that at liberalbias.com. Today's new member of the day, Roger Reinker. Great to have Roger Reinker aboard on the membership program. I am hesitant because I think that it's possible his last name could be pronounced Renker. I don't know if it's Reinker or Renker. In either case, I apologize for the wrong pronunciation and take credit for the correct one, assuming that one of the two I used is correct.
Okay, Mitt Romney.
I don't know what I said, but I'm sure I meant it, whatever it was, when I said it at the time.
Right.
I'm glad we're not going to have to deal with that anymore.
Not for a little while.
Not for a little while. Let's talk about the House of Representatives. The final split in the House of Representatives after yesterday's election will be 232 Republicans to 191 Democrats, barring some last-minute changes in election results. Elected to Congress in the House and Senate, the first disabled woman, the first openly lesbian woman, the first Asian woman. It's quite a binder full of women that Congress has at this point,
That
isn't
could
it?
certainly fill a binder, yeah.
It could certainly be one that's presented to Mitt Romney with a cherry on top.
I'm sure he would probably throw it out.
Nutty Allen West appears to have lost. And I say appears to have lost because with 100% of the votes counted, he is losing. I think, Natan, it is so close that it will either trigger some kind of automatic recount or review. Is that correct?
Right. They're not projecting it yet, even though West is losing. So I'm assuming they're going to either do a recount or just project it later today at some point.
I love it when nutty right-wingers get in on a fluke for one term and then are promptly booted out. I really like that.
It is nice. It was one hell of a term, though.
Michelle Bachmann won narrowly. If Michelle Bachmann had been booted out of there, it would have just been even more confirmation that this right-wing nutty social policy, it's just not going to fly anymore. And we'll talk more about that later, too.
I think it's going to take a few more years for people like her to be completely phased out.
Tammy Duckworth, the first disabled woman, won over former deadbeat dad Joe Walsh. Joe Walsh is a particularly unsavory character there in the House of Representatives, and it gives me great pleasure to see him replaced by a true American hero in every sense of the word and an advocate for progressive causes. I can't think of a better result than having Joe Walsh lose to Tammy Duckworth.
Well, let's be honest. Even if he were replaced by a vacuum cleaner, it would be a huge improvement.
No, you're right.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. In the Senate, Democrats keep control of the Senate. Now, I want to be very clear here. We had an important race here in Massachusetts, and we cannot minimize the importance of producer Lewis's vote in Elizabeth Warren's defeat of Scott Brown. Lewis, we need to congratulate you on your vote.
Thank you.
Natan, would you like to say anything to Lewis?
Absolutely. And just a further point on that, yesterday we saw a lot of people at the polls, as we talked about yesterday. No doubt a lot of them were fired up to get rid of Scott Brown and bring Elizabeth Warren in.
I would argue in part because of Lewis voting.
Definitely. That was a huge chunk of that.
Yeah.
Is it fair to say just me being there fomented some fervor?
Oh, I think Lewis may be responsible for Scott Brown no longer being in the Senate. Of course, nobody knew whether you voted or not until the polls were halfway closed. But
retroactively,
in the same way that some people retroactively retire from jobs that are politically inconvenient to have held,
I retroactively won Elizabeth Warren the election.
Exactly. I think it's brilliant.
I'll take credit for that.
Some other key races: Tammy Baldwin over Tommy Thompson in Wisconsin. First openly gay senator. She's a lesbian woman. Joe Donnelly over God-given rape, Richard Murdoch in Indiana, and Claire McCaskill over legitimate rape, Todd Akin. I have to say, if not for Todd Akin, we may have had vastly different results in the House and Senate because we really were able to call attention because of the God-given rape and legitimate rape comments to this type of nonsense.
Yeah, they really hurt themselves.
No question about it. Let's talk about the state propositions. Natan, let's see if we can put up our graph. It would be great if this can go full time. This isn't exactly it. We have an image which popped up inadvertently in the last segment, which actually outlines, it's a map of all the state propositions. There it is. So this will be impossible for anybody to see. and I know that in advance. So I'll just give you some of the highlights. Maryland and Maine became the first in yesterday's election to legalize same-sex marriage by popular vote. Colorado and Washington passed legalization of personal marijuana usage with a number of different restrictions. In Colorado, that was amendment number 64, marijuana for recreational use. This is interesting, not because I have any interest in smoking marijuana, but because we are finally starting to get real change. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, I will make the case later. We're about to push the boulder over the hill here on true progressive change. And these propositions, these state propositions, the presidential race, hugely important. The Senate and congressional race is hugely important. But these state propositions, when you have states voting by popular vote for the first time to say, we're not going to discriminate against gay and lesbian couples, this is progress. This is the definition of progressive. The word progress is in there, Lewis, and this is progress.
Yes, this is big time social progress. And also on the marijuana end of things, we really need to end the war on drugs.
Absolutely.
We're making huge steps there. It's so expensive and ineffective and idiotic.
I just don't think the average person realizes if we were to have reasonable defense cuts that don't endanger this country in any way, maybe not 50 bases in Germany, but maybe we keep 38. Right? And we have legitimate changes to the war on drugs, the economic impact of that is huge. Forget about Big Bird and Elmo and whether Bert and Ernie are a couple or not and what that does to your return on investment in the Dow Jones Industrial Average. Forget about all that stuff. We're talking huge numbers here. It's missed for most people. Most people don't get it.
Yeah, I don't think we'd have to talk about entitlements for a very long time if we were to make cuts like that.
We're going to talk about, with the marijuana stuff, what does this do to sales? In other words, in Colorado, once this is enacted, what will this do to the sketchy marijuana buying on the corner in alleys and stuff like that? I mean, this is, to quote Newt Gingrich, a fundamental paradigm shift in the entire context surrounding drugs.
Yeah, can you imagine your local police officer or state trooper actually worrying about important things other than someone handing you a dime bag in the local park or on the corner?
DavidPakman.com/2012wins. 48-hour special where for 40% off we'll give you a 1-year David Pakman Show membership with all the benefits it comes with and a David Pakman Show hoodie made from 100% recycled materials. Together, 40% off, but you've got to go to davidpakman.com/2012wins. There's never been a better time to do it. Progressive independent media will be the driving factor for the next 4 years for real progressive change. Let's take a break. We still have to talk about so much more, including, are people who didn't vote idiots? Someone on MSNBC thinks so. Stay tuned. Plenty more coming up.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com. Welcome back to the David Pakman Show.
Welcome back to the show. One quick correction. Earlier, I indicated that Tammy Baldwin was the first LGBT member of Congress. Of course, that is not correct. Barney Frank was. She is the first Barney Frank was in Congress. I'm not even saying that he was the first. She was in Congress as well. She is the first LGBT senator. So that is what I want to make clear, Lewis.
Thank you.
Let's not get everything wrong. Barney Frank was the first openly gay
openly, or that we know.
Openly gay, but we know there were many gay members of Congress before him.
Yeah, like 100,000 years back that goes.
Yeah, it goes back longer than the universe has even been around.
Right.
By the way, we just got word that we have a couple of Republican pollsters that do still believe that Mitt Romney has a path to victory. Tomorrow we'll be interviewing them. It's going to be an exclusive interview. They're going to outline exactly how Mitt Romney may be able to win the 2012 election.
Excellent. I'm looking forward to it.
Donald Trump went completely off the deep end last night, and he started tweeting a whole bunch of stuff. I have a lot of it here. And he started saying, once again, our nation is divided. Our country is in serious and unprecedented trouble like never before. The election is a total sham and a travesty. We are not a democracy. Let's fight like hell and stop this great and disgusting injustice. The world is laughing at us. It's so funny because the guy has really, at one point he was kind of considered not a mainstream Republican candidate, but like someone that at least in the context of what the Republican primary election was, he would at least be able to be in there and be considered one of the people running. And then the birth certificate stuff And now these ideas, like, doesn't he realize that the world would have been laughing at us if Mitt Romney had been elected? We looked at the global polls. Nobody wanted Mitt Romney to be the next president of this country. He seems to not realize that if the world is laughing at anything going on here, it's at him, not at President Obama.
Right. I mean, he does get a few things right. We are a split country.
Yes, okay.
I mean, it's just that his context is wrong. I mean, we've been split for a very long time now. It's not because of the outcome of this election that we're incredibly polarized.
He and Brian Williams started getting into it. Brian Williams, commenting on the Donald Trump tweets last night, said that Donald Trump is passing the last exit on the road to irrelevance. And then Donald Trump sending a tweet out saying, Brian Williams was never a smart guy, but always passes himself off as such. People will learn the truth. So
no, that's actually Donald Trump describing himself.
That's what we call projection.
Right.
We're very, very familiar with that. Okay, Chris Matthews had a couple of controversial comments last night. The first one was that he said anyone who doesn't vote is an idiot. That's number one. Let's take a listen to that one.
Who's watching this show, by the way, who hasn't voted and doesn't have direct plans to vote is an idiot.
This is also true.
I don't know why anyone would watch this show or any others till they voted. Go vote, and then watch this all night tonight on MS. But if you don't vote, you're an idiot. That's what the Romans called.
All right, so Louis, do you feel good that you decided to vote? Because otherwise Chris Matthews would be calling you an idiot.
No, because by my calculations, there are tens of millions of idiots who did vote.
That's true. Well, that's interesting. In the same way that not all Republicans are racists, but if you're an American racist, odds are you are a Republican. You are not. You aren't necessarily. You can vote and still be an idiot, right?
Of course.
That's really the point.
I disagree. I think that you can make a distinction between being an idiot and doing something idiotic, and no matter what, not voting is an idiotic thing to do, whether or not you're an idiot.
Ah, there we go. So a distinction being
Well, so
made.
you're not completely agreeing. You're saying not voting is an idiotic thing to do, but you might not be an idiot.
That's correct.
Okay, so there is a difference.
And then the other controversial Chris Matthews clip from yesterday is that he said he's actually glad for Hurricane Sandy because he believes that it helped President Obama win. Let's take a look at that.
Dignity and just took it and kept moving forward and doing his job. And the American people, and I know we look at these percentages, 40% of the white vote, fine. That's about right among Democrats the last couple cycles, 3 cycles or 4. Good work for them, good work for him, a good day for America. I'm so glad we had that storm last week because I think the storm was one of those things. No, politically, I should say, not in terms of hurting people. The storm brought in possibilities for good politics.
I want to thank Chris.
All right, it's not clear there where Rachel Maddow reaches over with her right hand if she's trying to get him to stop this insanity. What do you think of that? I mean, we talked about politically it actually did benefit Obama, so I don't disagree with him. The thing is, the idea of saying I'm glad we had the storm seems a little bit crass.
And don't make it sound as if we need strange things like that to happen for Obama to have a shot. I mean, that shouldn't be the point.
No question about it. As we know, Alan Lichtman, with his 13 keys, predicted an Obama re-election 2 years ago, before debates, before campaigns, before Hurricane Sandy, before all of that stuff, Natan.
That's exactly right. To Chris Matthews' point, I mean, it's politically incorrect to say so, and obviously it would be better if the storm hadn't happened, but he is kind of touching on something that we all think, which is that it's possible that without this hurricane, maybe Romney would have squeaked it out. And that would be really bad for the country. I'm not saying that I agree with Chris Matthews, but he is touching on something that we all think.
We don't know. There are a number of factors beyond our control, which may, when we're talking about 50,000 votes deciding states, any number of small things could have had an effect, conscious or subconscious.
Was the storm politically advantageous for the president? No doubt.
Puerto Ricans opt for statehood in referendum. Puerto Rico may be the 51st U.S. state. They voted in a non-binding referendum which would require final approval from Congress. Now, here's the interesting thing. The ousted governor from Puerto Rico was a pro-statehood individual. The new governor there is not pro-statehood. However, the vote has already passed. It is now a question of whether President Obama believes that it passed by a big enough majority where statehood can be certified or whether Congress will debate it. This is fascinating for a number of reasons. Number one, because Puerto Rico would be a blue state. Do any of us disagree on that?
No.
Nope.
Okay. Also, because we have these issues of the official language, and we certainly would have to have, I assume that Puerto Rico would have to, let me put it this way, Republicans are going to make a big stink if Puerto Rico is to be the 51st state about what is the official language, does everyone speak English, What is the story with that? Any disagreements that the Republicans will make the language an issue?
No disagreements.
I think they're going to make it an issue, but it should be pointed out that in Puerto Rican government, local government, people do speak English, and almost all of the documentation is in English. The laws are in English, so not everyone speaks English, but all of the politicians speak English, so it wouldn't be that much of a change.
There you go.
Right.
Let's be honest. The English of a lot of American elected officials is not even really that good.
Very true.
Yeah.
So what's going to happen?
Well, we'll see.
The House is going to shut this down?
I don't know. It'll be interesting to see, but a 51st state, adding a blue state could be a pretty cool thing.
I think so.
You know how a lot of times liberals will say, if the Republican wins, I'm moving to Canada? Well, sometimes Republicans will say that, but it's kind of silly because Canada is, of course, very, very left-wing. So now a lot of Twitter posts started saying Republicans who are angry with the Obama win are going to move to Australia. Of course, it's just as ridiculous. Australia has single-payer health care. They support Obama nearly 20-1. Very strict gun control laws, a prime minister who is atheist, single, and female, legal abortion, mandatory voting, you get fined if you don't vote, a top tax rate of 46%, which kicks in above $120,000 a year income, a mandatory Medicare tax to pay for universal health care. I don't know if that's really the place for Republicans to go. I know maybe they're looking only at countries that speak English, but I don't think Canada and Australia are good options.
And once they move to Australia, to their horror, they will be smacked in the face with insane censorship laws. And probably, I don't know, probably not be able to say the insane things they can say over here.
You think so?
Yeah.
I don't know, but is that true? I don't know that Australia has a censorship issue.
It's more in terms of media, like video games, movies, and things of that nature. They have insane laws regarding censorship.
Strict is what you're saying.
Well, no, I'd call them insane.
Okay. Well,
and strict.
So not the place for Republicans, I think, is what we're making clear. Let's take a break. We'll come back. We'll talk about what does this Obama victory mean long-term for the progressive cause. You're not going to want to miss that segment. Plus, we'll talk about a lot more stuff. Stay tuned.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com. The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.
We've been talking about the Supreme Court. President Obama's victory could spell the end of a conservative Supreme Court for the first time in like 40 years. This has been a decades-long campaign by conservatives to build a lasting majority on the U.S. Supreme Court. If Mitt Romney had been elected, that may have been a reality. With the election of President Obama to a second term, we now have the possibility, depending on whether President Obama appoints 1, 2, or 3 Supreme Court justices, and specifically which justices he's replacing, of actually having a liberal Supreme Court. Now, I want to propose an idea. If we look at the progress that's been made over the last 40 years on everything from civil rights, including racial equality, marriage equality, etc., some of the progress on the war on drugs, all of the different things that we have made strides on in the last 40 years with a conservative Supreme Court. Imagine what could happen if we finally get a liberal Supreme Court. We're talking about huge things here, Lewis.
And it's pretty bad that we even have to frame it this way, right? That we have to say, well, currently it's a Republican, but we prefer a liberal Supreme Court.
Because it's the law, right? Shouldn't it just be the law?
Right. All of this should be aside.
Right.
Your political ideals should not be at play.
Not the case, though.
At all. But no, yeah. So this is a big deal.
It depends on who gets replaced, though, Natan. That's the thing.
Right. In order to shift the balance in favor of a 5-4 liberal majority, you would have to probably see Scalia or Anthony Kennedy retire. Ruth Bader Ginsburg may retire soon, but that's not going to have a net gain for the liberals. So let's see what happens.
What does this election mean for the Republican Party as we know it? I believe that this is the beginning of the end for the Republican Party on a number of fronts. We just talked about the Supreme Court and the changes we may see there. Demographic shifts. The Republican Party continues to depend on white voters to push them to victory. The demographic shifts that became a factor in 2012 and will continue and will be even more pronounced in 2016 will make this ultimate reliance on white voters not a winning strategy. The numbers just won't work, Lewis.
Correct.
We will also continue to see the liberalization of policy. We talked about Colorado and Washington legalizing marijuana, Massachusetts voting yes on medical marijuana. We see more states now, by a popular vote, voting to legalize gay marriage. This is the direction things are going. We may be getting to a point, Lewis, where this is the perfect storm to finally push out these backwards, ridiculous ideas based in certain groups and certain areas of the country once and for all, and really start to move forward and catch up on social policy and fiscal policy in some senses, at least on government spending policy, to where many countries already are. It's a huge opportunity.
We're definitely moving in the right direction, and this election is proof of that. There's still going to be opposition. The Republican Party is not going to disappear.
No,
it's
but the question
have to
is,
change,
right?
And it will still be opposition in the face of progress. But I think we are moving in the right direction.
It was funny to me when, after the results were announced last night for President Obama winning re-election, we saw pundits saying, well, in this effort to be fair and balanced, or fair, unbiased, whatever, saying the Republican Party is going to have to move to the center, but the Democratic Party is also going to have to move to the center. That's not true. The Democratic Party is going to have an opportunity to move further to the left as a result of the Republican Party having to move to the center, or being pushed out to the extreme right, which is where the Tea Party and many others would actually have it. This is an opportunity not for the idea that now everybody moves to the center presupposes that everything is just even. But the problem is we're seeing more and more moves to the left in the state propositions that are passing, and so on and so forth. This is the moment not to move to the center. Moving to the center is the worst thing that Democrats could do at this point. It's time to move to the left.
Moving to the center is the best thing that Republicans can do.
If they want a chance of staying relevant.
And they will.
I think you're right.
I have something to say about that. Just the idea, I think that a lot of the things that we're seeing in state-by-state ballot measures like same-sex marriage, legalization of marijuana, are not actually leftist things that represent shifts in the country. They do represent changes of opinion, but those should be traditional Republican ideas. Old school Republicanism was states' rights.
It's gone.
People can do what they want to do. States decide what they do, and this is exactly what that is.
Doesn't exist anymore.
Gone. Completely gone.
Let's go to voicemail. 219-2-DAVID-P. Call it 24 hours a day. Let's take a listen.
Hey, David, your comments about Liberty University, I wanted to comment on that. I think that's a good thing, having them come to the Supreme Court to settle once and for all to clear the air about exactly where they plan to discriminate against people. And it's pretty clear to me that either the court would have to, they'd have to argue over, do you think Liberty University will discriminate against people they hire by saying, we're only going to hire people that,
all right, so the point being made here is a good one, which is if Liberty University brings this new argument against Obamacare on a religious basis all the way up to the Supreme Court, they would have to explain, well, what exactly would you do? Are you saying you want to be able to be discriminatory in hiring people who would not want birth control to be covered by health insurance, for example? It's a good point that's being made. I just feel like now, particularly with the re-election of President Obama, Obamacare is staying. And you guys disagree at all?
Nope. No, it's here to stay.
Fox News reporting on the Black Panther at the polling place. This looks like the video from 2008, not 2012. I wouldn't be surprised if Fox News pulled up an old clip. I don't know about that. And maybe they are nervous because he looks militant. If he was in khakis and a button-down shirt, I think it would be different. We did talk about that, and I said I am no fan of the new Black Panther Party.
Right.
It's a new Black Panther. You might as well have a member of the KKK in front of a polling place. You know what? In some parts of the country, I'm sure members of the KKK are election monitors. No doubt about it.
For sure.
DavidPakman.com/2012wins. David Pakman Show membership, David Pakman Show hoodie, together 40% off. Only for 48 hours. It's because of President Obama's re-election. Huge, Lewis.
Of course.
One more time, davidpakman.com/2012wins. The next 4 years, we need to push progressive change. It's not happening on CNN. It's not happening on MSNBC. It's not happening anywhere but progressive independent media. Sign up today. We'll talk to you more tomorrow.
The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.